Now, I don't know if you noticed this, but there definitely has been a ramping up of the depopulation agenda, of pushing eugenics and painting it as if they're doing some kind of social good, some kind of social cause, where even now, Vox is promoting famous eugenicists like Peter Singer. Now, I mean, we've been seeing so many time and time and time examples of just eugenics, just total population control being pushed on the American public in the guise of just like, hey, we need to do this. This is what's good for you. Hollywood does it in subliminal messages. There's the birch strike movement. There's so many different things that we talked about, but I definitely wanted to talk about this specific article that Jason, you shared with me that's titled, Should Animals, Plants, and Robots Have the Same Rights as You? Now, this is a kind of very sophisticated propaganda. Break it down here. What is this article talking about here exactly, Jason?
Yeah, so I came across this, and for those not familiar with Peter Singer, he's like the forefront of veganism. I just want to say this. This is an article from like almost 20 years ago now, this Guardian article that was called him the most dangerous man in the world. And it starts off here, right here, like he's a philosopher who eats no meat or dairy, and he thinks they're no better than animals. Now, a lot of that is in this kind of vegan philosophy that's infiltrated, I would say, popular culture in the United States. So, they kind of walk you through in the beginning. Women didn't have rights, 1,000 years ago. And, black people didn't even have rights a couple centuries ago. And now, what is sentience? Is it the ability to feel pain? And then, they bring in Peter Singer and the moral circle. So the moral circle, for those that don't know, that was introduced by a guy named William Leckie in the 1860s, but popularized by Singer in the 80s. And I want to scroll down here so everybody can get a look at the moral circle. Now, you have your family and friends in the middle. Here's where the United States is. You notice how they're just a couple rings out, animals, and just plants are like half a ring out from animals. What this does, essentially, is it puts a few in control of the many, and I'm not just talking about human beings, but the resources of the many as well. When you start claiming that it's immoral and that we are no better than animals, listen, I'm not saying that, I'm an animal guy. I love my dog. But to think that human beings are the same thing as, let's say, a bear. I'm sorry. Have bears created civilization? Have they created travel? Have they created mass highway systems? I don't know. Planes, trains, automobiles.
Jason, I want to tell a famous Peter Singer quote that kind of highlights the point that you're making here, because he said previously before, quote, "You shouldn't say animals to distinguish between humans and non-humans. We are all animals," end quote, by Peter Singer. Go ahead.
I disagree. And here's the things. We're living in an age where we're seriously now talking about AI. We've already all seen the dystopian books and movies where the robots take over. And I don't know if you ever saw the Animatrix, Luke, but there was a short anthology series in between Matrix 1 and 2 where essentially we got into a civilization where the robots had gained some kind of sentience. There were people for and against robot rights. And the artificial intelligence that was the overseer of these robots essentially didn't like how we were treating them. And that's when we become batteries, all right? That's when we become batteries. Basically, the men, the leaders of man, as they call them, decide to try to cut off the power source of AI that's gotten out of control, which is to block the sun. It's a very odd, almost black chemtrail moment. That's how the sun gets blocked out. It backfires on them, it doesn't work, and the robots just use them as batteries instead. That's not where I think this is going, but I do think it degrades us as human beings when we start talking about the rights of a blade of grass. Listen, we could talk about, environmental sites all day, sure, but at the end of the day, who gets to decide what's protected? Who gets to decide how many deer, for instance, can be hunted there? Usually, at least in this country, there's a consensus. We have a vote. What this is promoting is beyond that. And Peter Singer, by the way, not everybody is up on Peter Singer. Many years ago, 2012, there's articles like this, The Case Against Peter Singer. He's talked about wanting to become a virus. and take down the human population, that we are like a virus. And I just can't get down with that, Luke. I think that humanity has done some pretty beautiful things. Sure, we've done some horrific things, but I think this article is extremely dangerous because it's a critical
Jason,
perspective.
before we get into this article, because this article is very extensive and pretty much just lays out all the arguments here. It's kind of layered in many different things because as a human being, yeah, I'm for a peaceful, harmonious environment where we respect and love all living things. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool. But when you try to, of course, step over someone else and to put someone lower to empower certain aspects that benefit you, that's when you really have to question everything. I mean, I love animals. You watch my Instagram stories, you'll just see a whole bunch of dogs all the time and a whole bunch of other animals. But this is not just about loving dogs. Again, we're seeing this time and time again, especially around kind of the bigger kind of, I would even say, political movements, the kind of social justice warrior movements where they think, and even some right-wing movements where they think they have to step on someone to be above, to rise above. When in reality, you don't need to put someone down to make yourself better. And that overall is the major kind of, I think, critical thinking that's being examined here. But this is a very long, comprehensive article. And it definitely, in hindsight, at first looks good, but when you look into the sinister things, it's like, holy cow, there's a lot more happening here, especially with the kind of social engineering with robots, which is really terrifying in the advancing technocratic state, to say the least. That's my take on it, Jason.
Well, there are a lot of times that they go, well, does a chimpanzee have more feelings than, say, a shrimp? And I think when you get to that level, again, even in nature, we do have, basically predators that take out prey. We're at the top of the food chain. Now, are we supposed to take ourselves out of that food chain? Even when we were just hunter-gatherers, Luke, we were able to make tools and take out much larger predators than us. And even though we were their prey, we became the predator and took them out. They became the prey because of our minds and our intelligence and our consciousness. And to try to kind of go through, these moral hoops of, is it a dog? Is it a chimpanzee? Is it a squirrel? Is it a pig? Look, I know there are a lot of people that are going to be upset about this video, especially amongst the vegan community or the vegetarian community, or even those that have spoken out of some of the aberrations of factory farming, which I agree with. Okay, I'm not here to say I endorse the torture of animals. I know that I'm a hypocrite and the things that I eat often are not taken care of well, are often part of some pretty deplorable conditions. But that's not what Peter Singer is about. In my opinion, Peter Singer is about demoralizing the human mind and the human race and trying to bring us down into the levels of animals, which I don't believe we are.
Yeah. I mean, it's mainly an attack on the spirit, the soul, and people's connection to the divine, of how they represent and see God. No, you're not. You're not special. You're not. You don't have a soul. You're just another stupid animal, and we're all equal to animals. And now robots, as Vox is making the argument here, just again trying to put you in that mind state with that kind of subliminal, bigger disinformation and propaganda to kind of convince you that, again, these bigger underlining cases here. And he's been pretty instrumental, Peter Singer. What's some of his work, what's some of his quotes that stick out to you the most, Jason? Because he said a lot of different out there things, to say the least.
Well, I mean, he's advocated for the killing of babies. I mean, he's actually advocated for the killing of babies. He's advocated for infanticide in some cases. Obviously, this guy is an atheist. Again, I would suggest, I don't want to take him out of context because there's a lot of Peter Singer fans out there. After all, there's a lot of people that really do believe that we are the moral equivalent of animals. And when you get down to the end of this article, how wide will humanity's moral circle be in 100 years? It's entirely possible that we'll have expanded it in some respects and narrowed it in others. I think that if we let, this kind of politically correct social justice warrior style political thought process go any further, and people like Peter Singer are being endorsed by media outlets like Vox and no longer questioned, we could be at a pretty dangerous place in 100 years. I won't be here. You won't be here. But perhaps your kids will, or your kids' kids. You know, probably not your kids, but your kids' kids. Maybe my kids. I still haven't had any. Maybe I'll rock some out when I'm 60. I have no idea. I'm just saying that it's a scary future when we again, degrade humanity, degrade human beings. Guys, we're pretty special. No matter what you believe religiously, I'm telling you right now, human beings, we're pretty special.
I definitely agree with you on that. And I would even make the argument that the kind of philosophies and ideas of Peter Singer are very much kind of identified, and they're kind of the underlining philosophies of kind of far leftist organizations like Vice, like Vox, organizations that promote the birch strike, organizations that, of course, create a divide and conquer agenda, organizations, of course, that push a lot of the bigger kind of undertones here that do need to be understood to really get the bigger context of what's happening here. And one of the bigger philosophers, one of the bigger thinkers behind, I would say, the bigger proponents of the agenda being pushed on everyone is Peter Singer. That's my take on it. I have nothing else to say. Jason, do you want to close it off?
Yeah, guys, if you like what we do, we make 4 videos a day between here and the backup, or the backup and here, depending on where we posted this one. You never know. Please smash that subscribe button. Make sure you're subscribed to both Pulse and We Are Change, and ring the bell. If you don't ring the bell, you won't get notifications for our videos. But most importantly, share this stuff with others and get out there and be the change you want to see in the world.